Everyone knows Leonardo DiCaprio as the Hollywood superstar who survived a sinking ship in Titanic and stole millions of hearts around the world. But what if I told you that behind the fame, the awards, and the glamorous Hollywood life, Leonardo DiCaprio has faced terrifying moments that could have ended his life several times? Moments so shocking that even his biggest fans barely know about them. And the craziest part? One of those moments happened thousands of feet above the ground, when Leonardo believed he was about to die. Long before the fame, long before the Oscars, Leonardo DiCaprio grew up in a world far removed from the bright lights of Hollywood. His childhood in Los Angeles wasn't glamorous at all. The neighborhood he lived in was filled with crime, drugs, and violence. It was the kind of environment where most dreams never escape. His parents separated when he was still very young, and although they tried their best to support him, life was unstable. But even in that chaos, Leonardo had a dream. He wanted to become an actor. And strangely enough, the first step toward that dream started with rejection. When Leonardo was just a small child trying to appear on television, he was actually kicked off a children's show because producers said he was too disruptive. Imagine hearing that as a kid. Most people would have given up right there. But Leonardo didn't. Instead, he became even more determined. And that determination would eventually change his life forever. But success would come with a price, and danger would follow him in ways nobody expected. Before we continue with the unbelievable events that nearly ended Leonardo DiCaprio's life, welcome to Celebrity TV. If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind the world's biggest stars, make sure you subscribe to Celebrity TV and join our growing community. Because the truth about your favorite celebrities is often far more shocking than the movies they appear in. Now back to Leonardo DiCaprio. Because the next moment in his life is something straight out of a horror movie. Years after becoming famous, Leonardo decided to go skydiving. For many people, skydiving is already terrifying. But for Leonardo, it turned into a nightmare. As he jumped from the plane and pulled the cord to open his parachute, nothing happened. The parachute didn't open. For a few horrifying seconds, Leonardo was falling through the sky with no way to slow down. Imagine the fear. Imagine realizing you might not survive the next few seconds. Luckily, the instructor diving with him managed to activate a backup parachute just in time. Leonardo survived. But the strange thing is, that wasn't the only time death came close. In fact, the next incident might have been even worse. During a vacation adventure, Leonardo decided to go cage diving with sharks. Cage diving is supposed to be safe. A strong metal cage separates divers from the predators. But during Leonardo's dive, something went terribly wrong. A massive great white shark suddenly charged toward the cage. The force of the impact caused the shark to break part of the cage structure and force its body inside. For a brief moment, Leonardo was trapped underwater with one of the ocean's most powerful predators. The shark thrashed violently, trying to escape. Leonardo later described it as one of the most terrifying experiences of his entire life. Somehow, the shark managed to get itself out of the cage and swim away before attacking him. Once again, Leonardo survived. But danger still wasn't finished with him. Years later, Leonardo accepted one of the most brutal roles of his career in the film The Revenant. The movie would later become one of the most respected performances in modern cinema. But filming it nearly destroyed him. The conditions were extreme. Leonardo worked in freezing wilderness environments where temperatures dropped far below zero. To make the movie realistic, he forced himself to eat raw bison liver even though he had been mostly vegetarian for years. He slept inside animal carcasses for certain scenes. He crawled through freezing rivers and icy landscapes while wearing wet clothes. At times, the filming conditions were so dangerous that several crew members reportedly left the production. But Leonardo kept going. He pushed his body to the limit because he believed the performance had to be real. And when the movie was finally released, audiences were stunned. For years, Leonardo had been nominated for Oscars, but never won. Fans around the world began joking that he was cursed when it came to the Academy Awards. But this time, everything changed. When Leonardo's name was finally announced as the winner, the entire audience stood up and applauded. It was one of the most emotional moments in Hollywood history. But even before that victory, Leonardo had already fought another battle, one that almost ruined his career. When Titanic became a global phenomenon, Leonardo instantly became one of the most famous men on Earth. Fans screamed everywhere he went. His face appeared on magazines across the planet. But fame also created a problem. Many critics began calling him just a pretty boy. Hollywood executives started seeing him as a teenage heartthrob rather than a serious actor. For a moment, it looked like the movie that made him famous might trap him in roles he didn't want. But Leonardo made a bold decision. Instead of chasing easy fame, he started choosing difficult roles that challenged him as an actor. That decision led him to work with legendary director Martin Scorsese. Together, they created some of the most powerful films of the modern era. Movies like The Aviator, The Departed, and The Wolf of Wall Street. Each role pushed Leonardo deeper into intense characters filled with obsession, power, and corruption. But despite the fame and success, Leonardo slowly began focusing on something much bigger than movies. He became passionate about protecting the environment. Through the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, he began donating millions of dollars to wildlife conservation and climate projects. He even spoke at the United Nations, warning the world about the dangers of climate change. For Leonardo, fame was no longer just about Hollywood. It had become a tool to fight for the planet. And maybe that's the real reason his story is so powerful. Because behind the fame, the awards, and incredible performances, Leonardo DiCaprio is someone who has faced danger, rejection, and extreme challenges throughout his life. Yet every time something tried to break him, he survived. And sometimes the greatest legends aren't just the ones who succeed. They're the ones who survive everything that tries to stop them.